The Hagia Sophia is probably Justinian's most well-known monument. And this was a church actually that was built on the site of a previous church that had been built by Constantine Chlorus, a previous emperor, right, in the Byzantine, a descendant of Constantine. So, why build on the same site as a church that had already been there? Well, the church had been destroyed by anti Christian rioters. Because as I've mentioned before, transitioning to a new system isn't always all sunshines and rainbows and unicorns, right? It's often a bumpy road that takes a number of years, right? We say early Christianity, it really took about like 200, 300 years to really make that full transition to the Christian faith primarily. So here at the Agia, right, you're noticing I gave you some dates. I gave you the dates because I wanted you to think about how quickly this building was built. After the rioters attacked it, Justinian wanted to make a statement, right? He wanted to make a statement that we are going to be Christians, right? That is going to be the way it is. And there's not going to be any debate about this. So I'm going to rebuild this church. I'm going to build it even better, and I'm going to do it in a ridiculously short time frame. Because if you think of the time frame of like 5 years here, this is nothing, especially at this time, right? It takes more than 5 years to build major buildings now. So this was a statement, right, from him, right, to his people that, you want to burn down my church. I'm going to build you another one and another one and another one. And you're not getting away from this. Like, this is not something that's debatable. This is going to be. He hired the best architects he could get, which were Anthemius and Isidorus, and use them to create this structure, and create something that was going to be the most beautiful building that was seen at this time. You'll notice this is a massive dome structure. This becomes the largest dome structure in the world, taking away the Pantheon's record, right, of 200 years of being the largest dome structure in the world. So sorry, Pantheon, right? The Hagia Sophia takes that away from you. Now, the name Hagia Sophia, it relates to the idea of great wisdom. Sophia, right, is it means the wise wisdom, right? So many people talk about this as a Marian church, right, related to the wisdom of Virgin Mary. And we'll talk more about the role of Virgin Mary in the Byzantine, because actually the Virgin Mary will start to be positioned in a very specific way by the church, through icons, through the building of what we call Marian churches or churches of Mary, and why they would want to do that, right? Why would you want to use that Marian lore? We'll get into that a little bit further on. Um, I was lucky enough to go to Turkey in 2015 and go to Istanbul and see the Agia in person. So I tried to take a lot of pictures while I was there that I could bring back and show and use, right, in our lecture, right, and give you a sense of the way that you approach this building, being able to see the minarets more clearly. And why does this building have minarets or the towers that you see? Well, it was originally a Byzantine church, of course, but then later is transformed into an Islamic mosque, right? When the Muslims arrive, and the Ottoman Empire rule begins, right? So, this building was then converted into a mosque. Today, it is a museum, right? So it's gone to being a secular structure completely. But some conservative Turks, right, conservative Islamic Turks, have wanted to turn it back into a mosque. So we'll see where that debate goes down the line as politics goes on year after year, right? But right now, it is a secular museum. But that's why you see the minarets here as well. Inside the Agia, right, you can see the expanse of this space, this amazing dome space, that's meant to look, again, very heavenly. One of the hallmarks that you see with Byzantine decoration is the use of a lot of gold, tons of gold. They loved it. They would use gold leaf on anything they could find. So you see a lot of gold. So I tried to take a lot of pictures of the gold embellishment right throughout the space. You see a lot of mosaics, right, and other types of decoration. The dome here is very special. It used a new type of design, right, to make it the largest dome in the world, because the Pantheon was originally the largest dome. Now this one would be. And so we'll talk a little bit about the design, right, of the dome and the different types of structuring used there. You'll notice as well that there is a combination of iconic work, right, and also aniconic work. And we'll talk a bit about that as well as we go along through here. But that also speaks to the Christian slash Islamic heritage of this building. Here you have some imagery related to the seraphim or the feathered angels, right? So you see that's very unique in the structure. Now, how is this dome unique? The dome uses what we call a pendentive construction. You'll notice the pendentive is highlighted on this plan, right? So you can see it. So before this, the dome at the Pantheon, it was a freestanding circular dome in a sense. It was pushing straight down. With the pendentive, what you can now do is take the dome and push it, and the weight is thrust out into the pendentives and then down into the walls and away from the building. It's a very ingenious way of transferring weight, right? So the weight's not coming straight down, it's kind of transferring out and away, out and away. This allows for a larger dome and a heavier dome. I like to think of the dome kind of like a light bulb being lowered down into a socket and screwed into the socket, and allows for intense stability. So this pendentive allowed for a larger dome and a more stable dome. So that's pretty amazing. I'd also mentioned that I wanted to talk a little bit about icons and aniconism. Now, in Islamic art, right, in Jewish art, they believe strongly in aniconic belief. They follow the Ten Commandments very, very closely. And the commandment regarding icons, right, you will not make icons, they take it very, very seriously, very literally. And so for Jews and Muslims, you never see what we call figural literal imagery, like Christ over here on the left, right? Christians believe in the use of icons. They're like, how do you teach people something unless you show them pictures? So that's their attitude. So notice to me, I don't think one's right or one's wrong, right? It's just how they're reading their faith, how they're both looking at the Ten Commandments, those shared commandments, because all three, believe in the Ten Commandments, have a what we call Abrahamic heritage or linked to one another. And so it's just about interpretation. So Christians use icons, right? They'll use images like Jesus on the left, and Muslims will use calligraphy. They'll use patterns and symbols and geometry. They won't use literal imagery. So here in the structure, you get this interesting clash of the original iconic Christian embellishments and then the stuff that was put in by Islamic forces later, right? Muslim artists later, which is more based on calligraphy and those type of designs. So it's interesting to consider the difference between these two faith heritages and how they would approach using imagery.